The most dangerous jealousy is the kind that smiles at you. Because you do not defend yourself against someone who looks supportive. You trust them. You open up to them. You let them get close, and slowly, without realizing it, something starts to feel off. Not obvious, not dramatic. Just small moments that leave you slightly uncomfortable. Slightly confused, like something is not lining up. You tell yourself you are overthinking. Because on the surface, they are kind, they show up, they say the right things, but underneath that, there is tension. A quiet resistance you cannot fully explain. And by the end of this, you are going to see 6 signs that most people miss. Not loud jealousy, not obvious envy, but the subtle kind that hides behind normal behavior. And once you see it, you will not unsee it again. Here's the first sign. They downplay your wins, not directly. Not in a way that sounds harsh, but in a way that quietly reduces the impact. You share something good, a promotion, a new opportunity, a personal achievement, and their response feels flat. They might say, "That's nice," or "Yeah, but that field is getting competitive," or "Let's see how it goes." There is no real excitement, no genuine energy, just enough acknowledgement to not look negative, but not enough to actually celebrate you. And here is what is happening underneath. Your growth creates comparison, and comparison creates discomfort. So instead of sharing in your success, they neutralize it. They bring it down to a level that feels safe for them. And over time, you start sharing less. Not because you want to, but because the response never feels right. The second sign is even more subtle. They compliment you, but something feels off. It sounds positive, but it carries a hidden edge. You're actually doing really well for someone with your background. You're lucky things worked out for you. You've changed a lot. At first you accept it, because it sounds like praise, but later you replay it. And something about it does not sit well, because it is not clean, it is not direct. It places your success outside of your control, or frames it as surprising. And that is intentional, because it allows them to acknowledge you without fully validating you. The third sign shows up in how they respond to your struggles. You would expect support, understanding, maybe even empathy, but instead there is a subtle shift. They become more engaged, more curious, more present. They ask more questions, they lean in, and for a moment, it feels like connection. But notice the difference. They show more energy when you are struggling than when you are succeeding, and this creates a strange dynamic where your pain gets more attention than your growth. That is not support. That is imbalance, because your struggles do not threaten them. Your progress does. The fourth sign is inconsistency. They are supportive sometimes, distant other times, encouraging one day, cold the next, and you cannot predict which version you will get. This keeps you slightly off balance, because you are always adjusting, trying to understand what changed, trying to get back to the version of them that felt good. But this inconsistency is not random. It often aligns with how you are doing. When you are down, they are steady. When you are rising, they pull back. And that pattern is not coincidence. It is emotional regulation on their side, managing how they feel in relation to you. The fifth sign is disguised competition. They do not openly compete, but they mirror you. If you achieve something, they suddenly have a similar goal. If you improve, they start highlighting their own progress. If you share something meaningful, they redirect the focus back to themselves. It is subtle, almost automatic, but over time, you notice a pattern. The spotlight never stays on you for long. It shifts, gently but consistently. And the sixth sign is the one most people ignore. You feel drained after interacting with them. Not always, not in a dramatic way, but enough to notice. You leave conversations feeling slightly smaller, slightly unsure, like your energy dropped, and you cannot fully explain why, because nothing obvious happened. But something was taken. That feeling is information, not proof, but a signal. And this is where most people make the biggest mistake. They ignore the pattern because each moment seems too small, too subtle, too easy to dismiss. They wait for something obvious, something undeniable, before they trust their instincts. But hidden jealousy does not announce itself. It operates in small moments, repeated over time, and if you only look for big signs, you miss the pattern entirely. So you stay, you continue sharing, you continue opening up, you continue giving access, while something inside you keeps adjusting, keeps filtering, keeps shrinking slightly to maintain the connection. But the most dangerous part is what happens next. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I am reading too much into it. Maybe they mean well, and in that doubt, you override your instincts again and again until your internal signals become quieter and their behavior becomes normal. That is how the dynamic stabilizes, not because it is healthy, but because it is unchallenged. The shift happens when you stop asking if they are jealous and start observing the pattern without labeling it, because you do not need to prove their intention. You only need to recognize the impact. If someone consistently downplays your wins, that matters. If their compliments feel backhanded, that matters. If their energy drops when you grow, that matters. If you feel drained after interacting, that matters. You do not need a confession, you do not need confirmation, you need clarity. And once you have that clarity, your response changes. Not dramatically, not aggressively, but precisely. You share less with them, not everything, just the parts that feel vulnerable. You stop looking for their validation. You stop expecting their excitement. You stop explaining your growth to someone who cannot hold it properly. And you watch. You observe how they respond to that shift, because when access changes, behavior becomes clearer. Some people will adjust. They will meet you with more balance, more consistency, more genuine support. Others will pull back, or become subtly defensive, or try to re-engage in the old dynamic. And that tells you everything you need to know. This is not about cutting people off immediately. It is about adjusting proximity, based on patterns, not hopes, not assumptions, patterns. And as you do this, something shifts in you. You stop needing everyone to celebrate you. You stop oversharing your progress. You become more selective with your energy, more intentional with your circle. And that does not make you closed off, it makes you aware, because not everyone who smiles at you is aligned with you, and not everyone who listens to you is rooting for you. Some people are managing how they feel about you, and that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your clarity, your energy, and your direction. And once you start doing that, these hidden patterns become easier to see, not because people change, but because you do. You stop ignoring what you feel. You stop minimizing what you notice. You stop explaining away what keeps repeating. And that is where your power returns, not in calling them out, not improving anything, but in adjusting how much of you they have access to. Because real strength is not just knowing who to trust. It is knowing who to limit, quietly, clearly, without needing to make it a conflict. And once you understand that, hidden jealousy stops being something that confuses you and becomes something you can recognize early and move around without losing your balance.